My name is Drew Waldron, and I am on with brand building and leadership expert, Dia Sims. Dia, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Drew?
I'm excited to talk to you. You're definitely an interesting personality, and I would love to get into a conversation about your expertise. You have built such an interesting career, becoming someone who could provide her expertise on a multitude of topics from branding to DEI initiatives to leadership to disruption, just a whole slew of some very impressive topics. Knowing that you have so much behind you, how do you typically introduce your career to someone who's unfamiliar with your work?
Golly. Well, first, thank you. I focus on, even though I've been in different genres from defense to movies to vodka, it's really the same through line, which is kind of just turning ideas into impact, right? I think I specialize in turning like a dream or a thought, making it operational, making it scalable, and making it profitable. And frankly, those skills, that kind of paradigm, could survive in a variety of genres, locations, whatever is needed. So even starting at Department of Defense, where I was brought in as a team to really address a problem, right? Like, how do we make sure we're protecting the US taxpayer? How do we make sure we're negotiating and getting the best possible deals was a big problem. And it was really clear to me, like, no, we can figure out how to account for it and put the right systems in place to solve it. To now, as one of the co-founders of Pronghorn, when we looked around and said, hey, all of a sudden, which is great, America's looking around and saying, like, let's try diversity. Let's figure out how we do it in a way that makes sense for business. And everybody's not exactly getting it right. We say, you know what, let's do all the modeling, let's do all the math, and let's understand how to make an actual template on how to effectively diversify an industry and make sure that you understand the commercial case for diversity, right? So even though I've worked in a variety of industries, I think the consistent through line is ideas, right? Implementation, impact.
Absolutely. And speaking of the variety of industries that you had worked in, before taking your current position, you had spent nearly 15 years working with Sean Combs, who most people know as Diddy, at Combs Enterprises. What was your experience like as you joined up until when you were overseeing these massive brand deals as the president?
Gosh, so I work for Combs Enterprises, Puff Daddy, Brother Love, Diddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, depending on what time it is or what country you're standing in. I started there as Sean's executive assistant, actually. I had never been an assistant before, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this job. I think this is a guy I could learn a lot from. I think this is a person also who really represents the best of what we view the American dream to be. And I wasn't disappointed. I was there for almost 15 years. I started as executive assistant and was promoted to become the first president in the history of the organization, besides Diddy / Puff / Sean Combs himself. And during that time, there's a masterclass in building businesses from scratch, right? He's a true visionary that will have hundreds of ideas a day. And I was jokingly referred to as like the dream factory, where, okay, we have this dream, we want to build a television station. And he would paint a beautiful picture of what that would look like. And then I would do all of the work of how do we translate the level of creative vision into the right supply, the right logistics, the right location, the right team to make it go. And doing that over and over again, building a television network that's now in 60 million households, right? Building a fragrance that did $90 million in 8 months, and men's fragrance was not doing those type of numbers. Turning around a vodka brand that had not been doing well to becoming a multi-billion-dollar value brand. All those things, all those muscles that I learned during that time, it legitimately was like just being a serial entrepreneur within a relatively small company of about 300 people. But it taught me the ability to build things quickly, at scale, with the respectful relationship with culture over and over and over again.
That's incredible. And honestly, it is so cool that you just call him Sean. That's funny. So from going to the president of Combs Enterprises to your current position as CEO of a tequila and mezcal company, the company that you're currently the CEO of launched in 2020. And I'm curious, what was your experience like launching a company mid-pandemic, and what challenges did you and your team have to overcome?
Yeah, so apparently that's my thing. We launched Ciroc Vodka, during the middle of a recession, and then working with like our powerful backers like LeBron James or Arnold Schwarzenegger or Lindsey Vonn, we launched Lobos 1707 Tequila. In the pandemic. So I don't even know what I would do like to launch a brand on a sunny day. It was interesting. We took a lot of time to make sure that we were respectful, right? It was like, look, people are, this word has obviously been obnoxiously beat up, but it's just so accurate in American English. We were in unprecedented times. So we're like, we just can't be like, our tequila is incredible. It is incredible. It is delicious. It does have a lot of awards, but nonetheless, we were thoughtful about the time that we were in. So we were thoughtful about the team that we built in terms of making sure it reflected our heartbeat. Even our initial messaging was really welcoming in terms of we launched on, there isn't enough room at the table. We'll build a bigger table. We want to make sure that it was action oriented and it was inclusive. And even our offices, we were purposeful about building an office space in the Lower East Side in New York. It's not a traditional office. We actually opened it up to the community where if you're an emerging artist, you can go in and shoot a campaign. There's a big screen. We open to local mixologists and said, we have to really approach this brand differently. The brand is called Lobos, which is Spanish for wolves, based on our founders' family's coat of arms from the 1700s. We don't even have enough time for my wolf TED talk, but as we studied wolves, they're really interesting animals that we as humans could learn a lot from in terms of how they protect each other. And the physically strongest wolf often takes up the rear. You have both the alpha male and the alpha female, and how if one of the wolves gets sick, the wolf pack actually takes care of that sick wolf, which is pretty unusual in mammals. So when we built our company, we were incredibly inspired by wolf culture and everything that's right and everything that's good. And we built the company and our relationship with the customer and the relationship with everybody who touches our pack with that same spirit. Our first piece of creative introducing the brand to the world, everybody in those visuals are real people who belong to the brand. The hemadors in the field, the real mixologist, the real salesperson, the woman who owned the advertising agency that we work with, right? And I think today's customer, at a time where we're kind of in this battle over facts, coming out with a brand that was ridiculously authentic, and all we ever have to do is tell the truth all the time about the family history and the brand, the people behind it, makes it easy for us. And I think the consumer feels it, and it's the reason why we've grown so quickly.
Wow, you rarely hear about corporate community spaces. I think that's incredible. Just because of your history, your career, I'm sure that a lot of people come to you asking for advice. Young people today are entering a professional world that seems to change more and more each year, both culturally and in terms of technology. What advice would you give to a young person entering the workforce right now?
So the number one thing I would say is think like an entrepreneur, even when you're inside an organization, right? So we've all heard the term entrepreneurs, right? So even no matter where you work, I work for the Department of Defense. I mean, that's the height of bureaucracy, right? I mean, but nonetheless, you are still building your own brand, right? You're still building your own reputation, and that approach it in the way that as you would. I understand that you may not have ownership in that organization that day, but approach it with the spirit of entrepreneurship. When you look at where great innovations have come from, they typically have not been natural, right? You would think iPhones didn't come from BlackBerries, right? Uber didn't come from taxis, right? Netflix, didn't come from the VHS company or from Blockbuster. A lot of times you might have to choose to build something new and vital from scratch, but you might not get the tools you need to build your new company, your new industry, new thing that you own, if you don't have the muscles flexed by the time you spend at an organization, right? So whether it's not necessarily a time where my parents might have worked in some place for 50 years, maybe you are in an organization for 5 years, 6 years, but really kill it during that time. Come and over deliver, because it's actually just school for you to enrich your own life and making sure you're getting the best out of that experience. So for whatever you do next, A, your reputation will be incredible. Could be your first client, potentially, whatever you do next. And B, whatever you do next, it's not I think there's this backwards thing where people feel like, oh, I'm only gonna work so much because da da da. Instead of like, anywhere I am, I often say, and this is not my saying, but be where your feet are, right? If you're there, do the hell out of it. I grew up in a house was like, if you can get a B, you can get an A. It actually enriches your soul, actually makes for a happier life to kill the thing that's in front of you at that time. Do an incredible job in the moment that you're in. It makes you happier, makes you more whole, and it makes your confidence go up, which is just a great foundation for the rest of your life. So if you're 22 years old, I don't care what you do. If right now today, somebody was like, hey, Dia, things didn't work out, you have nothing, your money's all gone, somebody robbed you, we need you to be a janitor. I'm gonna be an incredible janitor. Like, I'm gonna be incredible, because you guys gotta, while you're there, I just think it's a light that is fueled inside of you, right? When you know that you're doing the best that you can contribute to that moment.
Over deliver and disrupt. I love that. Dia, I think the last question I want to ask you is specifically in your career as a speaker, what are some of your favorite topics to talk about, or some of your favorite groups to address?
Some of my favorite topics are around disruption. are around building brands from scratch, operationalizing brands, on how to build a brand today, and making sure, there's still, I think it's important people understand that the way you built a brand 20 years ago is very different today. And not just because of digital, right? But because of the audiences that we're interacting with. How to build a brand at the speed of culture, right? That's one of my favorite topics to talk about. Another topic that's really important to me is just the commercial case for diversity. We're weirdly still approaching like, we should hire women because it's a good idea, instead of like, there's like 1,000 studies that show it's just good for business. So if your business likes to make money, you should be more diverse. Diversity is only going one way, which is up. And if you want your revenues to follow, you need to understand the commercial case for diversity.
If I could maybe ask one more question to tack on at the end of that, what are key differences between companies that are just doing diverse hiring because they feel like they have to, and companies that are utilizing that as legitimate business strategies and succeeding because of it?
The key difference between an organization that focuses on diversity as a business strategy versus an extra thing to do or a burden is the bottom line. Like, it's just a fact. When we built Ciroc Vodka starting in 2007 with a focus on inviting a different community, right? Both on the ownership side and on the community side, we built a multi-billion-dollar business because we nurtured a community that had been not nurtured, and we benefited from it, not only in goodwill, but in our pockets. So I'm always like, don't do it for your heart, like do it for your wallet, and hopefully your heart comes along, but it literally is just good for business.
Incredibly said. All right, that will conclude our conversation with Dia Sims. Dia, thank you so much for your time. This was great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for including me. Have a great to meet you too.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.